Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. I'm going to take you out to plant these gladiolus, but first, can we just take a moment? I planted pots of flowers last night. So these baskets have a combination of plants in them. They have some ranunculus, which I grew from corms that I overwintered last year. They have some island waterfalls petunias, there's one there, and some giant parsley, and some flowering cabbage. So this is a bit of an experiment for me. I'm not sure how these are going to go, but I think this is a nice spot that gets a lot of sun in the mornings, but some shade in the afternoon, which I think these plants will appreciate because they're cool tolerant, more cool hardy plants that don't want a lot of heat. They go really fast from very cold, freezing temperatures to very hot temperatures. So I think this might be the best spot for them. I mean, the petunias would be fine out in the heat, but the other plants will like a little respite from it, I think, in the afternoon. So hopefully I can get some color out of these and some performance out of these before it gets too hot for them. That's my hope. We'll find out. I'll update you as it goes. So I have 3 of these planters, and the 2 on the ends of the deck each have 4 of the island waterfall petunias in them. There's 1 on either end, and then there's 2 kind of in the middle. And they're supposed to mound like 8 to 10 inches is my understanding. I don't think I've grown this variety before. So I grew those from seed. And then the ranunculus are from saved corms from last year, and I'm still a real newbie with ranunculus, but I'm really happy with how some of these performed so far, growing for me this year. Much better than last year. So I'm hoping they'll do well. So I have 2 kind of on either side, and I can't remember, I think they get, again, around like 12 inches high and 8 inches wide. I might be wrong on that. And then the flowering kale, again, should get quite large, and there's 2, 1 on either side here. And then the parsley, I think, is pretty much at its mature size, so we'll see how things go in here. It could be quite packed if they all perform the way they're supposed to, but like I said, I'm not really sure how these plants will do. It's been getting into the 20s here last couple of days, and you know, the plants, if it starts to get much warmer and stay warm like that, I'm not sure how these plants will like that. But I thought we'll put them in here to try to enjoy them before it gets too hot for them. So the 2 on the ends are the same. There's the other one down there. And then the center one has the same plants, just a little bit different configuration. So I just have 1 of the flowering cabbage there in the middle, and then 2 of the giant parsley. And then the rest is the same with the 4 petunias and the 2 ranunculus. So I can't wait to see what these look like and how they do like this. Now let's get on to today's mission, planting some gladiolus. So I've been debating about where I want to plant these gladiolus. I've been thinking somewhere in the ground in my flower beds, and they can be planted outside. Hey, Buster. They can be planted outside anytime once the ground can be worked. They're fine to do that. In some places, I believe you can probably even leave them in the ground. I'm not sure. I live in Saskatchewan, Canada, which is growing zone 3, which means that it gets down to like minus 35, minus 40 in the winter. So these can't stay in the ground here. I think maybe when you get into the warmer areas you can, but so I lift them every fall, or as you can see with this one package, buy some new ones. But they are fairly hardy bulbs for some regions, and so they can go in the ground as soon as you can work the ground. And I planned to get these planted actually sometime in April, but we got some really nasty cold weather going through, and our ground just never thawed out far enough down for me to get them planted, like it sometimes does. And then I've just kind of been putting it off as I was still trying to really decide where I wanted them. But I think what I've decided to do, well, I know what I've decided to do, is put them in these big pots that I have out here in my vegetable garden area. They're a nice tall plant. They will need some staking out here. Once they grow, I'll need to kind of wrap some ties around them to give them some support because it is windy out here. But I think they'll be nice because I think these pots, I believe all of them are supposed to have some sort of a melon in them or a squash. And so these will give some height to these, the gladiolus will give some height to these large pots. And just put some color out here, which would be really nice. And I'm hoping to cut from the gladiolus, so that would just make it easier to do than trying to step into the back of a flower bed to get to the blooms. So that's what's made me decide to just plant them in these pots. Like I said, the wind could become a bit of an issue with them here. I'll probably plant them just a little bit deeper just because of the wind, just to give them a bit more support. And then I'll probably, once they grow, put some string kind of around the outside of the grouping of plants of each pot, just to help give them a bit more support with a couple of stakes instead of staking each individual one. I have a whole bag, I don't even know how many are in here, that I dug up from last year. And then I have this bag of 40 that I picked up at Walmart one day, and they've been sitting around for months, so I'm just gonna get them all planted in these pots. You can see when you dig them up, just like when you buy them in the store, there's no real special storage needed for these, just somewhere that isn't really hot and humid or freezing. They don't need any like special material packed around them or anything, just a breathable bag, and they're good to go. So I'm just gonna grab some gloves and maybe I'll grab a trowel. I don't know if I'll need it. And I'll probably get some blood meal just to put in here just to add a little bit of nutrition to these pots, and I'll have to add some more in later. And then we'll get these planted. That'll be nice. One more thing checked off the list, because spring is coming fast this year and I need to get some of these things done. Okay, so I can't remember exactly what this mix is. It was a mix of gladiolus that I had grown last year, and I don't really know for sure, but I think it was just a real complete mix of colors, like very similar to this. So I think these two will be fine to just kind of mix around together. And so in fact, I'm just going to take this bag and dump it into this bag and kind of mix them around. And then I'll just know that it's just a mixture, and there won't be any huge difference if one pot has one bag versus another bag in it. Now, this bulb, I don't know if you can tell, it's really squishy, and it just looks kind of dried out and gnarly. So this was out of the purchased bulbs, and they've been sitting up in my plant room, which is quite hot and humid, for months, which they shouldn't have been. So I'm not sure it's gonna grow. I'm gonna plant it anyways. Doesn't hurt. I'm not doing any real formal display here, so it's okay if they're not all prime. But you can see this bulb is one that I dug up from last year. You see it has a little bauble on it, or I'm not sure how you actually say that, but it's like a little baby coming off the side. So that's how they propagate. And then if you look, here's the bottom, and there's very small little bits of roots that are just kind of starting to show there. So that part would go down, and then the top of a gladiolus kind of is where all the skin comes together, and then there's just the slightest little point usually at the top there. So that's what you're looking for. So you would just plant it straight down in the ground like this. The package says to plant them 5 to 6 inches down. So I'm gonna go that full 6 inches just to make sure they're down, getting as much security from the wind blowing them around as they can get there. I don't want to go too much deeper because I want to have them come up and enjoy them. I have 8 pots, and I'm guessing I have at least 80 gladiolus. So I think first I'm going to go around and just put bone meal work some bone meal into all of these pots a little bit, and then I'm gonna try and just divide these out through all the pots, just to make sure that I don't have one pot with a whole bunch and one with just a few. I don't know, that's gonna be my plan. It's kind of a not plan, but that's what I'm gonna do this morning. Okay, so it looks like I can get about 10 to 11 or so in each one of these pots here, which is really nice. I think that'll be a nice display. So I wanted to show you another good example here of how they multiply. So you can see here, this bulb was a smaller one, and it's sent off the offshoots, and they've started to get larger. So this may have grown for a couple of years, or they just started sooner. It might have been one like that one I showed earlier that maybe was planted with a small little bauble on the side of it, last year, and then developed into larger baubles off the sides. So these can just be pulled off, and they can be planted individually. And this size here, I'm not sure, but I think this would probably flower this year. These may not, these two smaller ones. So I tried not to count the really small ones in my count of plants when I did this. Again, there's one here, and you can see there's like a mother bulb that's died off on the bottom. Hopefully you can see that. It kind of looks like a clump of dirt there. And then this would just pop off the side. There's the old dried up mother bulb, and there's the larger bulb. So this would definitely flower. Again, I think this one will, but I'm not very scientific in the garden, so I don't keep strict track of where these are. I know I've planted some that are, half the size of this one here in the past, and they have not flowered, but they'll send up stems and get bigger and stronger, and then they'll flower the following year usually, I think. So I'm just gonna, any that are hooked together like that are, a little bit larger, I won't worry about this size, but any that were like this, just pull them apart and I'll plant them out individually. And then I have the blood meal in here. And now normally I'd like to put a little bone meal in too, but I just don't have any right now. So I'll come along and top dress later. Like I said, I'll be putting squash and melons and things in these pots, so they're going to get a lot of nutrition, because those are all heavy feeders, those plants. So I'll be putting a lot of compost and things in when I plant those. So I'm not too worried about adding a lot right now. Right now they just need to get in here and start getting their roots growing. So what I think I'm going to do, these pots are set out in kind of groupings of 4. There's 8 of these pots. And I think I'm going to put the gladiolus towards the center of the pots here. So it'll be kind of a larger display down the middle when you're looking from afar. And then the melons will have room to kind of sprawl out the sides the other way, or go up trellises. I'm hoping to get a trellis set up for some of these. We'll see how that works out for the melons though. So I had peppers in here last year. So some of them have some really big roots that are still in here and haven't rotted away or anything. So I'm just gonna, if there's any that are in the way of planting the bulbs, I'll just pull them out. Some of you might recall that I had planted some tulips in here last fall, and I think some daffodils, just as an experiment. They say in our climate that you can't grow tulips and daffodils in pots and have them like overwinter outside because it gets so cold and they just freeze, and it's just not good for them. But I thought, like, they go underground and they're not going like several feet underground, and our frost line here is several feet underground that it freezes. So I just kind of wanted to play around with that. I thought these large pots, I had put some tulips and daffodils right in the middle, so they had a buffer zone, of about 10 to 15 centimeters or so around the outside edge, and then they get banked in with snow. So I just wanted to try, but I've seen absolutely zero sign of anything coming up in these pots. So unless, I know they take quite a while to thaw out these pots, so unless they're just still getting going. But yeah, no, I just pulled up like a completely rotten It's been frozen tulip bulb, I would think is what that is. So yeah, that's your answer to that, I guess. If you were wondering if that worked out, I don't think I'm gonna see anything out of those, but I had the bulbs and I just wanted to try it. But anyways, back to the gladiolus, they're not difficult to plant. So I'm just gonna go down. This, I'm gonna go about 6 inches. This trowel actually has measurements on it to 4 inches, and I know up to about here is about 6. So I'm just gonna kind of dig out a space that's about that deep, and then just kind of mass plant them. So make sure I don't bury any while I'm doing that. And now the package says to plant these about 5 inches apart, and I rarely plant my glads that far apart. I'd say I go about 3 inches. I mean, I'm pulling them up, moving them. They're nice, tall, skinny plants. That's part of the appeal. You can pop them in between like perennials and things quite easily out in your flower beds. So yeah, here's another rotten tulip bulb. So I want to make sure if there's any of those rotten tulip bulbs that they're not touching the glads. So I tried to make sure that I had a good combination of the kind of more purpley corms and the lighter ones, because I don't know, but I'm guessing that has something to do with their color. And then I also wanted to get a variation in the size of corms in each pot. So I had some, just so hopefully they're all somewhat even. So I'm just going to be putting them down in the ground, and I space them, I don't know what's that, about 3 inches, 5 centimeters. That's usually about what I do. So I'll do this little area I have here, and then I'll dig out more room if I need, because I don't think that'll be enough for all of them. These corms are smaller, so I'm putting them a little bit closer together because some of them might not flower. This is that one that looked like a dud. Some of them might not flower, so I don't need a lot of space for not flowering. I have to be careful. There's a lip that goes under the edge here, so I don't want to get into that lip too far. So 2 more. I think I'm going to go to the other side for them. You can see I have a drip line brought up from the bottom of this pot here. There, I see the other 2, so I'll just see where the rest were, so I'll just pop those in there, cover it up. There, that's 1 pot ready, full of gladiolus. It'll be great to see these flowering this summer when they come up. So they'll come up, they'll get really tall stalks of kind of grass-like, really large leaves, like thicker leaves, and then they'll send up these beautiful flower stalks. And they're great for cut flowers. When you cut them, you do have to be careful with gladiolus because they're gravitropic. So that means that when you cut them, if you lay them down flat, even just for a little while, they'll start to turn. Their flower stalks will start to turn up at the ends to get towards the light that way. They're always reaching for it. So you do have to be aware of that when you're cutting them. But for now, I'm just gonna be watering this bed to help keep it nice and moist, and I'm hand watering right now. You can see I have this line in here. The lines are all run up from the bottom of the pot with just some drip tubing. I think I might be reconfiguring this drip line a little bit this year just to get a bit more even coverage through the whole pot. But it's in here, it's ready to go. My water for the garden isn't turned on quite yet. But when it is, then I'll be able to run these, and they'll probably run every day, especially once I get the melons and things in here. But for now, I'll just be coming through and checking them probably daily, just to make sure that down a few inches is damp. And as long as I have some dampness in the soil, that's all they need to get going here. So I'm just going to keep going and get the other 7 pots done, and then this job will be done. It's supposed to rain today, but I kind of feel like it's going to go around us. So I'll get this job done just in case it does rain. That'd be really nice for the plants I have out here. That's another job ticked off the list. Oh, that's gonna be so nice. So the gladiolus will bloom in the summer. I don't know if I said that. And gladiolus can range from anywhere from like around, usually around 3 feet to even like 4 feet tall with their bloom spikes. So they get quite large. So if they come up here like I'm hoping, it's gonna be quite an impactful look in this little part of the garden, which I'm really looking forward to. And like I said, I plan to use these a lot for cut flowers. So as they're coming up to bloom and getting their big stalks, I'll be cutting them back. So hopefully the wind won't be too big of an issue with them. I did pull out a lot of rotten tulip and daffodil bulbs. There's a little bit of pepper roots and things in there from the peppers I had in here last year, but mostly this is a big bucket of rotten tulips and daffodils. So yeah, you definitely can't overwinter tulips and daffodils outdoors in zone 3 in pots. I have tulips that come up every year that I didn't even plant there in my raised beds behind me, but they must be able to get down to the ground enough. It's open to the native soil beneath the raised beds, so they must be able to get down and root in enough there that it doesn't matter. But yeah, well, I'm looking forward to the glads here in these beds, and got those flower pots that I showed you at the beginning, or hanging baskets, I guess, all done there. So it's starting to get a little bit more springy around here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.